My name is Sergeant Spasievich, movie director, and you're listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I am Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
Yes. And and they quite enjoy the name Annabelle Lecter, I believe. And
As they should.
They should indeed, yes. And we're joined by the three directors of German Angst. We have Jorg Buttgereit. Buttgereit.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, thank you. I am half German. Michal Kosakowski.
Yeah, almost. Kosakowski.
Kosakowski.
Yeah.
All right. And Andreas Marschall.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Marschall is simple.
Now that I got the names
I highly
all right.
recommend that when we do intros for people from other countries or have complicated names, they should start. I'm going to go with that.
Well, we can redo it if you like. But I think it was very smooth. It was very smooth. Now, German Angst, Annabelle and I got to see that, and we were talking to Michal and Andreas earlier, and I loved it. I know Annabelle did as well. For people who don't know, how did you guys get together to start the movie? When did the idea of German Angst come about?
Well, it was my idea when I was touring my last film with my last film, Masks. I was asked what Jorg Buttgereit is doing because we had there were a lot of these anthology movies like Theater Bizarre around this time, and no German movies of this kind, and so people were asking, and I know Jorg for a very, very long time, since the 80s, 1983, when I did the poster artwork for Necromantic. And so
and Hot Love.
And Hot Love, right. We know each other.
And Necromantic too.
Yes. Right.
And Jesus der Film.
Yes. I did a lot of artworks for him. And then I asked him, what about doing an episode or anthology movie? And he agreed. And I met Michael in a film festival in Transylvania, which where he was with this film Zero Killed. And he joined the group, and so we started working on this project.
Well,
you fell asleep.
No. The name itself, German Angst. What does that mean to each of you? Why the name German Angst?
Well, German Angst is it's meant ironically. Normally, German Angst means a political term which describes German anxiety for atomic energy and for war and stuff like this. But we took this term absolutely literally because angst means fear in German, and it's our version of fear. It's just our version of I don't know. It's just
the thing is that actually Germans are afraid of horror movies. So to use the term German Angst also kind of tries to establish that there is such a thing as a German horror cinema, which is something that we had in the 20s, but we don't have that anymore. Doing horror movies is a very bad idea in Germany because you really can't earn your money with it. And to be honest, we made this film with very little money, with private investors, with crowdfunding, and the movie is finished, but the people are not paid yet. So to do a horror movie like this over here is something you really have to want to do. It's totally different from the United States, where you have a very established horror film culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much you accomplish. Again, having seen the movie, it's beautiful, and I don't think anyone would question what kind of budget you had, because it's fantastic.
The tricky thing is that we didn't really have the budget. We made the film, but it's not, the film is not paid yet. That's it's not a problem. It will get the money back. I think I'm absolutely positive about that, because, as you said, it looks like a real movie, but in terms of how we had to produce it over here, it felt very much like doing Necromantic or Necromantic 2 back in the late 80s, early 90s. There is no support at all from authorities or nothing.
Mm-hmm. Is that fun? Is that exciting for you when you make a film like that? You said it kind of brings you back to some of your earlier films from the 80s. Does that also bring back kind of, it's in a way kind of dangerous, and it's kind of fun to do something like that?
It's all the bad memories coming back. Now I know exactly why I stopped making movies. And I got a lot of people asked me to be part of one of these anthology movies, and it never felt right to me because it doesn't have anything to do with Germany, because I'm a German filmmaker, and I made my films because we have a very strict censorship law in Germany, and it would make no sense to me to do a movie outside of Germany, because in the US, doing a horror movie is something normal. So what's the excitement? It's something commercial, and I'm an artist. I'm not a professional commercial filmmaker.
Neil, going back to the question about German angst, as regarding myself, I was born in Poland and I'm Polish, and for me this was an exciting exercise, to think what, from my Polish perspective, living in Berlin for many years, in Germany for many years, what German angst means to me. And so I came up with my story that you saw, Make-A-Wish episode. And I'm sure that many Germans will be offended that they are.
Not only the Germans. He was shouted at the world premiere in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. People were standing up and shouting at him. It was, and that was the world premiere of the movie.
They were walking out of the cinema.
Yeah, that was kind of strange,
shouting "fuck you all."
And
I read that online. It was posted on your Facebook page.
At some point, I was scared, because you didn't know what to do, if he's gonna wait outside with a knife and gonna stab me, but the first screening was kind of connected with anxiety and kind of nervosity, but this is obvious during the world premiere. But then afterwards, the next screening was fine,
Mm-hmm. No one was screaming "fuck you."
No, but I'm very curious to see the reception of the German audience, because the movie starts here on the Fantasy Film Fest on March 14th, so in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice touring festival through 7 major German cities, so we will see what the reception will be there.
Yeah. Now, I know in your write-up you said the story was very personal to you, and you just referenced that. Can you go in briefly about your experience that made that particular story personal to you?
You mean my episode, yeah?
Yeah.
That was when Andreas came to me and asked me about an idea for the movie. I had in mind my experience in Poland. Not in Poland, sorry. I had my experience in Austria, because when I was 10 years old, I moved with my family from Poland to Vienna, to Austria. My father was diplomat in the Polish embassy. It was in 1985. And I suddenly, had to visit German Austrian school where everybody was speaking German and I didn't speak any German. So I had to learn very, very quickly. But during the learning process of my language, I was many times beaten up by my colleagues, in a very, not always in a very physical way, but also in a psychological bad way, Mm-hmm. And being threatened, and I always had this wish, how would it be for you, the perpetrator, to change my position, and ultimately that was something traumatical to me, you know. And when Andreas came to me, I had this idea of the story about a guy who, with his girlfriend, who are Polish and who live in Berlin, and who get attacked by this neo-Nazi group, and they are in possession of this talisman that has this magic powers to swap personalities between people, and that is a kind of that was the idea, you know. That's where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
That's
a very
really interesting. And so when you went into the story, I, you know, as you've been saying, it's very personal. But why was it so important for you to express all this in this particular film, with it being potentially a big risk with the German audience?
Because this is a good opportunity, you know. Being here in Germany,
it's his revenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my, you know, if you look at my previous works, you know, they always deal with some with very political topics, you know. So it is a concern to me to have a platform where I can share these ideas through different medias, you know. I've been an artist for many years, working on video installations, galleries, you know. So I always was looking for the right platform to share my ideas, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did all three of you know, when you guys each picked your own story, did you want them all to have some type of connection with each other, with each story, or were they
the connection is the city. It's Berlin. And each story has a very distinctive way to tell you something about Berlin, but in a very different way. So we wanted to do each story as different as possible and as unique as possible, following the personal visions of the author. But we wanted the film to have a connection built up by the city, by the location. Mm-hmm. And I think the interesting thing about the film is that it's even the stories are very different. You still have a journey. You make a journey through these three stories, from a very private atmosphere in Jörg's episode to opening up to a more urban atmosphere in Michal's episode, and then going into the night, into a much labyrinthic story in my episode.
Fairy tale.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have three completely different things, but you've got a great journey to different temperatures.
Oh. What kind of feeling do you have? You've seen the movie now. So what do you think? Does it? What's it like to you? Because we don't have a lot of feedback. We have some very positive feedbacks from some reviewers from Rotterdam and from the film market in Germany, but we don't have, you know, like feedback from an ordinary horror audience or something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How would you describe the film to someone? How does it feel?
Would you like to go first, Annabelle?
Sure. I really enjoyed it. I think it's that it's something, as you know, people that are more into film and artistry of that can very much appreciate. It is a beautiful film. The stories are very interesting and involved. And I think it's something, just as you said, just the average horror movie person would probably enjoy. I know there are people, there's a portion of the horror world that gets squeamish about some things. They're more going to be into like a slasher flick. But, I mean, the stories are excellent, and I think there's enough people out there that are into that kind of horror that's thought-provoking, boundary-pushing horror. I think it'll do very well.
Especially the word "enjoyed" is very strange to us, because that's when I saw it for the first time in the whole was at the premiere in Rotterdam, and I had the feeling that it's really hard to swallow. You know, it's really exhausting to watch the film. Mm-hmm. And that's the opposite of enjoying something.
Well, I know Neil and I both, we like similar kinds of movies, and to me, enjoy is a funny word. For me, I would use that word because I can appreciate it, and I like that. I like very boundary-pushing movies, not because I like what's happening in it, but it's refreshing to have a film that does make you think and feel very strongly. So I enjoy having a strong reaction to a movie. So that's where I get the enjoyment.
I agree totally with that, and I've always said exactly. It's hard to say I like the movie Solo, and it's hard to say I really love Solo because it's not really a movie you would enjoy, as Jorg was saying. But if something makes you feel something, if it's an intense feeling of some kind, to me that's better than just watching something that you can just watch mindlessly.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. And I did see there was some common themes in some of the films, and I remember a few years ago when I interviewed Dieter Laser from Human Centipede, and he talked about that there's in Germany amongst the German people that they have that they kind of feel they have this a guilt, and I definitely saw that in Jorg's story, and the second story. And there was also, I thought, in all three in a different way, there was an acceptance where each of the characters accepted their lot in life on a different level, and I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. You know what really happened just today is that we got a feedback from the censorship board over here, from the classification board, and they have the most problems they have are with the episode of Andreas, which is something I find very strange, because Andreas' story, in my point of view, is the most cinematic one in terms of, okay, that's a horror movie.
Right.
But the reaction from the classification board was that, okay, the violence in Michal's and my episode is understandable.
And justified.
Which is a bad thing, I think. But so they seem it's okay. And Andreas, he made a kind of a straightforward.
I think the point is that in my episode, it's a psychological way of horror, which is for especially for intellectual critics or intellectual censors, is an assault, because it's coming from your body and it's coming from your sexuality, and it's dirty and it's sleazy to them. And they don't. They are used to deal with political violence and have these justifications about the past and stuff. But they have very much problems with sexual violence and sexual perversions.
Yeah. So in the German classification, as long as we have a justification on any level, then it seems to be fine, But as long as it's mindless killing depiction of graphic violent stuff, then it's
I think Germans always have a problem with irrational images. When with symbolic, nightmarish, irrational images, they always are very intellectual. They are very intellectually controlled. And when you watch, when you see the German film culture, which is produced by funds in Germany by the state, which is supported by the state, you always have very rational films, social, realistic, rational films, and you never see films about fantastic subjects and with nightmarish, really nightmarish content. I think this is
because it someone sure could see this and just mindlessly broad brush it as something that is, like you said, this is filthy thing where there's a monster, but there's a great story and there are little hints of morality, but there are elements of morality to all three of these stories. Where this guy was in a situation where his significant other thought he was cheating, and then he ended up with some, online looking at porn, and then trashiness, and I won't get into every single little bit of the story, but there's certainly more to it than Friday the 13th. It's not just random acts of violence on a bunch of teenagers.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is that we are not sure yet if the film can be put out in an uncensored version in Germany, which is something that is worrying us, of course.
Yeah.
It will be screened uncut at the film fest during March, at the Fantasy Film Fest nights in 7 cities. But after that, we have to keep our fingers crossed that the Germans can actually see the whole movie as it is meant to be.
Yeah. To me, that's really strange because I'm sorry, Bill, but it was like Jorg's story. Someone could possibly do that, go and get revenge on their father, and Michal's one, racism is real and people could do that. And then the third one that they had the problem with is something that's probably not going to actually happen. So it's weird that that's the one that they would have, the issue with.
Yeah. But the thing is that I think what's okay for them, and in a way it's understandable, is that Michal and me, we care about actual problems in our society. So we have a reason to show violent images.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I do it.
You do as well, but not on a not very obvious way.
Yeah. I'm not doing it in a realistic way. This is the point. Yeah. In Germany, in German cinema, everything has to be realistic. And if you do it surreal, you've got a problem.
Yeah. So probably the guys at the censorship, they ask themselves why he's showing this transformation of the monster. What does that have to do with the drug addiction problem? Or the addiction to images problem?
And the whole story is a metaphor for addiction, for drug addiction, and for sexual addiction, and for emotional addiction. And but they are not used to see films this way. They don't have the culture to see films in a metaphorical way in Germany. They are always very, very concentrated on realism, and you see this in all our film culture. When you see famous German films like the films by Wim Wenders and stuff, they are poetic, but they always are very realistic and naturalistic, And
so here you have it. You have an educational film.
Yeah.
Do you submit something? Do they ask you questions, or do they just see it and then just cut and dry? This is our.
I think it's different when they just in Great Britain they gave Necromantic the BBFC seal of 18 without any cuts, and they ask a lot of questions directly to me. So they asked the distributor Arrow Films to ask me questions about the rabbit killing and stuff like this. With German Angst, we sold the movie to a German company, and that company forwarded it to the censorship board. So they deal with them. And, to us, it's very obvious what we are doing. You can see the movie and you can understand the movie. We don't think that this movie needs a manual, You don't have to be a film professor to understand this film. So we are kind of shocked that it didn't went through in the first run. So they have to watch it again, and I'm not sure if we really can support it in any way. It's not meant in that way, So we don't have any clue now what
we will see about it, because they will try again in a different way. But the bad thing is in Germany that you, as a director, you cannot justify yourself. In Italy, when the censor board, they invite the directors and they talk to them and say, "What do you mean with this film?" And they have the possibility to justify what they did. In Germany, you only have 6 persons discussing the film, and they are usually not even film critics or something. So you can't really interfere as a director, and
so meaning that in Italy you're punished directly, and in Germany they're punished.
They punish a distributor for you.
Yeah.
Was there a specific reason why the stories are told in the order that they are told?
I mean, when I came up with my story, for me it was quite sure that this has to be the first story because it's such a slow build-up, and I'm doing like the opposite of tension or something like this. So I wanted to do a very quiet movie, and I didn't know what these guys were up to, so I asked for being like to do the prologue, the prelude.
And then actually the my episode was supposed to be the last one, and Andreas Marschall's Around the second episode. And after we finished the editing process, had this idea, why not putting Around episode at the end, because when my episode was the last one, that was pretty hardcore to leave the audience with that kind of ending, with the girls sitting there, So it was kind of too hardcore, And we thought it's nicer, to put Andreas' episode as the last one, which gives you more space, to breathe, after my episode. And at the same time, Around episode is the longest one. And it was good to put it at the end, because if you put the longest episode in the middle, then the audience will unconsciously start asking themselves, so when is the next coming? And having the longest as the last one, it was clear that's the last one, so everybody can relax somehow,
And you don't leave the cinema with the depressions, I think.
Yeah. So it's better to leave cinema with some nice naked girls than rather than with Nazis,
Oh yeah, that's always been my motto. But I also liked that as a viewer of the film, I thought the way he told the three stories was the first one was very realistic. The second one had a little bit of the mystic kind of thing with the talisman, and then the third one was very dreamlike. And so you kind of had a progression from realistic to more fantasy.
Further and further away.
Yeah. So I thought they played well with each other in that particular order. Now, working together, as did that go smoothly once you guys, decided you wanted to do an anthology film, and you started the crowdfunding and everything, actually filming and working together?
Yes, this was actually cool because first we had to find a producer, and so I decided to produce the whole movie, so each episode, and I also edited Jörg's episode, and I took the responsibility to finish the whole movie. We did it, but there's still invoices not paid, so I have to deal with it, but that was kind of cool cooperation, between three of us, because we never said, you have to do it like this or you have to do it that way, We always talked about everything, together somehow, and it was cool,
We helped out each other. We had the same team, but we had completely control about each story. Mm-hmm. But I did the behind the scenes photography on Super 8 on Jörg's episode, and Michal did it in my episode, and so we helped out each other, and the films were shot like 3 different films, but with the same cameraman, with the same composer, and with the same set designer.
Yeah.
And
but there was a break after each movie for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but so I was in control of the whole production with my team, and every single episode was shot, with the director and with my production support, and then we never we never had these big discussions that you have to do it that way or this way, or you can't do it. I mean, there was one discussion going on between Buttgereit and Marschall, about a scene.
about
razor blade.
Yeah, because
the razor blades in both our episodes.
Yeah, cutting a leg, wooden leg, which is very simple. But
this was a little discussion. The only discussion there was going on,
I think before we started shooting, we made clear to ourselves that we are independent filmmakers and we don't want to interfere with each other. When you keep in mind that you're not going to be rich with this movie, you at least should have the freedom to do what you want to do. Because this is not a commercial product. And we don't do this to earn our living.
And my production company, me as a producer, I guarantee that these three of us can make our visions as free as possible, with no limitations, with no borders. Just I am able to do the story as they wanted,
Yeah.
How important was it to have that production team work on each segment to keep a cohesiveness? Do you feel it was necessary? Do you think otherwise it would have been better or the same? How much did it add?
I was afraid because of episodic, of anthology movies. I was afraid that the movie will fall apart, like so many of these anthology movies do. So we wanted to make sure to have a connection, and the most obvious thing would be for us using the same director of photography. Jetzt ist der Topic, aber die ist immer noch da, oder? Yeah. So you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the fact that we used the same cameraman, was for me kind of a way to keep it all together, and it kind of worked out. I think it was an experiment. But it worked out, I think.
As a viewer, I think it definitely worked out because even though all three are different stories and have different feels, they still have a sameness because they do have a similar look to them.
Yeah. But it's also, if you have three different producers on such a project, then you have really also copyright issues that you have to solve them, But having one producer who is responsible as an entire movie, because this is how we see the whole movie, it's one single movie, consisting of 3 episodes. And that's why it was important that, one person takes care of it, and deals with distributors and sales agents, because otherwise you have really big problems, because then one producer says that, the other says this, then you have to clear that problem, then he's not here, and then it's suddenly you're dealing with problems that can stop the whole production. When you look at other anthology movies like ABCs of Death, then they have also one producer, they make a clear deal, with the director, they give a budget to the movie. But there is always one person who's responsible for the whole project, and you have to do it that way. Otherwise, now, for example, we've been asked for a short film festival if we can split the episodes. And I said no, because, I have contracts with my sales agent, where it makes impossible to split the movie and apply for festivals with single episodes.
And it's one movie. It belongs together.
Yeah.
And very interesting thing is that the whole movie was shot around Michal's apartment because a very big part of the film, Jörg's episode, my episode, was shot in the apartment above Michal's apartment. And the staircase in the hallway in my episode is Michal's hallway. The red door is his apartment door. And so everything was concentrated very tight around a very small setting.
And it had to do with costs, how to reduce costs. So find a place near you or production office,
And also finding a place where I can shoot with a young girl and getting her away back to her parents all the time, because they were just, next door all the time. So it was really I think for my episode, it was very important to have a private shooting set and not a normal film set where it's very unprivate and frightening for non-experienced actors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a family production.
Yeah.
A feel-good family movie.
I also loved the music and the score throughout the whole film, and the closing song at the end.
Well, the score was all made by one Italian. Yeah, is it it's a team, right?
It's a team. Yeah, they're called Musica Pesante. Consists of Paolo Marzocchi and Fabio Amuri, Italian composers. And the additional music was delivered by a very good friend of Andreas Marschall, is Schlafes Bruder, Fritz Grana.
It's a gothic rock band. I did some music videos for them, and they did all the music in the club, in the Ironic Club, and the ending music, the title music.
I love.
Yeah, and you're like
come up the show. If they would ever do that, that would be fantastic. If they would, I'm not.
There will be a special music video for this song. We are making plans to shoot some additional footage with the singer, with Fritz, and do an extra German Angst music video.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Awesome.
That'll be very interesting. Let us know when that happens. Love to see that. I was going to ask Jorg about Final Girl. Why was it so important for you to pick that age for that girl?
It was, to me, that's a movie about innocence as well. And I wasn't really going for a special age. I was looking for someone who could kind of understand what's going on, but still be innocent enough to act truly innocent, in front of a camera. To me, I'm mainly now busy doing stage productions, directing and writing for the stage. So I'm working with experienced actors all the time. And the guy in the bed, the bad guy in my film, he's Axel Holst. He's a very experienced stage actor, and I worked with him on a stage play about Edward Gein. And to have him together with this little girl in a film was, that's the exciting thing to me, because I really can't predict how this girl will act. And this is something I really enjoyed, because I'm always looking for this little moment of truth that you can't really capture with professional actors. I'm always trying to find moments that I usually don't see in other movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very different, and it was strange thinking about her age and how she's so close to being a teenager. But as you said, this innocence part where she really is too young to be going through this experience, and her perspective of it is almost like she's projecting herself to be an adult, even though she isn't one. So she's describing all these things in terms of the guinea pig. And it's just, it's fantastic. That was really interesting.
I loved all the dialogue about the guinea pig, and that actually made me interested if that was just stuff you wrote for that story, or was there anything you'd known or read about a guinea pig that made you decide to add that into the film?
The fact was that this actress, she had these guinea pigs, and to keep her comfortable, I thought, well, just put her together with the guinea pigs in that movie, and it might work. And because I was sure that she wasn't able to talk in front of the camera because she's not experienced, and we found out during the shooting that she was totally afraid of talking in front of the camera. I decided to do the cheap trick of doing a voiceover. But doing a voiceover about... because she really, as you just said, she's not conscious about what she's doing. So she's so I had this idea of connecting, of letting her connected to the guinea pig, and so I was getting all this information from pet web pages about guinea pigs, and I found this shocking information that guinea pigs, they don't like to be cuddled, they don't like to be caressed, and I thought, well, that's amazing, because I had a guinea pig as a kid, and I was, of course, always giving him a hard time because I was touching him, and to me it was such a nice metaphor for the abuse topic that it just felt very natural to combine this. In a way, I think it's a little bit of what I always trying to do is to put something maybe poetic into the realistic, gruesome stuff I do, to give it to push it to a different level.
Yes, a nice contrast between the.
Yeah, that's the word. The contrast. That's what's interesting. So there can't be no beauty if there's no ugliness, I think.
It's just amazing how that worked out with a guinea pig. What do you think you would have done if you didn't have that as a foil for her and the story? Because the metaphor is so perfect. It just sounds like a beautiful accident.
I mean, it was all. I wrote it all down before, so there was never a decision not to make it this way, Because when I was sure that I was doing it with that little girl, then I had the confirmation that she was willing to give us the guinea pigs as well. Actually, when we kind of signed the contract with her mother, she had 2 guinea pigs. But when we really started shooting, one of the guinea pigs was already dead, but they replaced it. So it's there's one really contracted guinea pig and one double. one stand-in guinea pig.
Something else that's odd in the very beginning I noticed, I brought up the age of this girl, because she really is just on the edge of becoming a teenager. The very opening images of her body, at first I wasn't really sure. You don't really know the age. I couldn't even really tell the gender right away. And then the toenails are very weird. But why did you decide to do that? It seems like there could be an intentional, almost on the border of sexualization of this kid. It's like right.
But she's always dressed, right?
Yes.
I think there's more nudity in any slasher movie. What you see is close-ups of body parts that are very unproblematic.
And that are nude always.
Yeah, so it's hands, feet, belly button is the worst thing you see. But I think the fact that it's very close, you see lips, well, stuff you always see, but it's a very close look. And sometimes I think you see these images without knowing what kind of body part this is. And this gives you this kind of sensual feel.
Yeah,
and
when
you see the dick of the man, it's not her hands. It's not. She wasn't present in
Obviously, it was done by a double,
the problem, of course, is... So I think we had this classical problem they had with Linda Blair on The Exorcist, Your actress is not able to see the finished movie, and she's not been able to do the special effect scenes.
Yeah.
So the hands, when there's something going on, very gruesome on the screen, you can be sure that that Lola was not on the set. She was on the floor behind, under us, playing with Michal's daughter. So it was, it was mainly for her. It was mainly a playful thing. And Michal's daughter's in the movie as well.
No, have either of those as Michal's daughter or the actress seen the film?
No, of course not.
No.
I mean, of course, they have seen some raw material.
We made a special cut for them, like
Okay.
version.
You just show to them like images that are not connected to any violence, and then of course they see it because they know how the set situation was, but they haven't seen the finished movie, of course,
But I had a lot of conversations with Lola about horror movies to find out how her relation to horror movies was or is. And she's very young, and she has seen only a handful of horror movies. Mm-hmm. And I think she kind of learned a lot on how to watch horror movies now, because she now has a feeling of how they are made. So that's, I think for her it might have been an educational trip, and I don't think she will be as frightened as before by horror movies.
The interesting thing is that young girls, they like very much horror movies. It's different from our experience when we grew up, and horror films were a thing for young boys. Last time when Michal and me we went to see a horror movie, we just counted how much girls and how much boys were in there, and there were much more girls than boys, and it was a typical commercial horror movie, and so something must have changed here during the last 20 years, I think.
Absolutely,
So you make nice fancy photos of us?
Well, there's a nice banner up right now.
Yeah, we saw it.
All right. Well, I hope you approved.
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
sure.
It's too late anyway now.
Yeah, I'm not redoing it. So,
So the girl is her last name Gave, Lola Gave?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not her real name, because we promised her mother not to give away her age, her name, because she wants to have a future, Now
I saw that her and Lucy Lane's names were connected in the credits, that there was an assistant. What about Lucy Lane? She was adorable.
Yeah, so she's also a girl that we protect, So she's also her real name, and her age is also protected, because it's very important, That's the deal I have to do with the parents, the parental guidance, and because these girls, they said yes, they want to act, but now, for example, Lola Gave, it's now almost 2 years later. She says that she never would like to play again in a movie, because that was one-time experience,
Mm-hmm.
And she experienced it's hard work.
And protecting you have to protect this children, because you don't know what in 4 years this person will do, because in that age, during the teen years, children are changing very quickly. So you cannot expect that this is going to be the job they will do forever, So
I mean, I was always doing kind of fake names when I did movies, like with Beatrice M, Monica M. I never gave away the full name of the female actresses in my movie. That's something, when you are connected with horror movies, I think today it's too dangerous to give real names away, because you can so easily find the people. And we know that horror fans are very dedicated, and this can be something frightening.
Unfortunately, yes.
So how is she? Because you mentioned how Lola was. How was Lucy with her role? And it just seemed like when I saw their names together in the credits, it seemed really cute that it said, one was the assistant to the other. So...
Yeah, they are friends, each other. They're very good friends. And Lucy Lane was playing in my episode in the flashback sequence, and it was a very, very, very exciting experience for her, because we had this Polish reenactment group there that is reenacting the Warsaw Uprising during the Second World War. So ultimately, we have we had all the equipment, all the machines, all the tanks, all the weapons on set. And of course, for her, it was it was very exciting to see it, And she was after seeing how all the violent stuff was done, on the set. Suddenly, it lost the power, of the frightening power of it, And that was the most exciting experience for her. That what you see on the screen and what you do on set has absolutely nothing to do, with
the finished product.
With the finished product,
On Mikhail's Make-A-Wish, I really liked the group of the neo-Nazis. Like, kind of the leader is kind of self-aware of what he's doing, and then the rest of them are kind of like caught up in the madness and just kind of are just totally followers. Even one of them is at the beginning, he's kind of against it. He's like, let's just get out of here. But then but everything starts going crazy, and he gets all caught up in it. And I assume that was intentional. And you're
Yeah, that was actually not the idea, because he's the only one who is obviously native English speaking. And he's a guy who is visiting Berlin, and he's obviously a guy from UK somewhere, from the suburbs of London, And he was just at this very day visiting their friends in Germany, and then he was not expecting that this day will end so much with so much violence. But it's his friend, and he didn't want to make a bad day for his for his friend, So, but it was also important to me, to have the British guy there, just to show that extremism, right-wing extremism, is borderless today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not connected to a specific country like it was during the Second World War with Germany. Now you can go to Greece, you can go to the United States, to Russia, to Poland. Everywhere you have right-wing extremist guys.
Mm-hmm.
And neo-Nazis. It's a phenomenon, a worldwide phenomenon. And I wanted just to emphasize more that fact,
Mm-hmm.
We had a specific line in there that I remember, that pain is international.
Exactly.
And that idea of pain and being a person that feeds off of the fears, the actual fear of other people, is something that's universal.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
It is interesting to showcase. You have the good guys and the bad guys, and the situation the good guy gets into, and when his girlfriend mentions the choice, it really is. It's very interesting, and it kind of highlights that it is something that a normal, decent person can be pulled into something very violent, and they feel justified in doing it.
Mm-hmm. And it just shows how simple it goes as well, Once you have the power, you're everybody's capable of everything,
And everyone, they all give themselves excuses for why they do these things. And for him, he had, suddenly he had, as you said, the power, and he came up with reasons in his mind why now he can behave this way, even though he had the option of doing something different.
Exactly, yeah.
It's an interesting contemporary thing, because we have a lot of young people coming from Europe and going to IS in Syria and fighting as
God soldiers.
Yeah, they are really they come from the rap scene. They come from a very hedonist culture, and the thing that they have the power to the power on about life is so threatening to them that they completely enjoy their new role in such a terrible circumstance. And it's this is the seduction of extremism. I think that you have the power to kill somebody. This is the most seductive thing you could do as a young person. It's the most evil thing you can do, and young extremists want to do something that shocks their parents and the state and the moral authorities. And so I think the most powerful thing to provocate is nowadays extremism, like in the IS and the right-wing movement. It's a very frightening thing, I think. It's so close. It could be your daughter could go there, or your son could go there.
Actually, the radio clip you hear in my episode, there was this radio news flash about this guy who decapitated his woman, and that's something that really happened. It's a real thing.
Oh, really?
I only changed the names, but it really happened just around the corner where I live, and I was totally shocked by that. And I kind of I just put it 1-to-1 in the movie.
Now that was something. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I picked up on that, and that there was a part where he mentioned Allah. Here in the United States, that is a very controversial to go down. I'm sure it is there as well, to even mention Allah, because of everything that's going on in the world. So even having that one little bit in your film seems very risky.
Yeah, but that's something he just said.
Yeah,
that's something he said when he was throwing down the head of his wife from the balcony. So it made sense to include it.
But do you think that can be controversial in the United States, especially this part in the radio of Jörg's episode?
Oh, yeah. There's things that still create buzz here. We're not totally... But no, for sure. I mean, that's... the I Am Charlie thing came up, and they're all over the news about all these different political things and the religious aspect.
The information that this is an actual thing that happened that way is kind of important.
Yeah.
For the reception.
You don't really hear about that, but that's something funny, is in America you wouldn't hear that. That story wouldn't necessarily happen here. We have a lot more people, we hear about things like that in other parts of the world where there's beheadings, but we don't hear about that here, unless it's from the outside. But you don't hear that Joe Schmo from down the street went on a rampage saying something about whatever God he believed in.
But
it would have to be
last year I would have told you the same thing. I would have never thought that next door someone is cutting the head of his wife, throw it down the balcony, and shout, Allah is great. I would have not believed that it just will happen in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, how important is it for you guys when you're making this film? Because all of you have expressed, how significant these are to each of you. How important is it for you in terms of a cathartic experience to be able to make these films?
In terms of what?
The catharsis, where you are sort of sorting through your own emotions and thoughts about these things that you observe in the world.
Well, since we didn't we didn't made a movie that is a commercial piece of that isn't a product. I think we work more in terms of how artists work. I consider myself an artist, and while doing a film, I explore the things that disturb me, and I don't have the answers to all the questions that are raised in the film. So for me, it's kind of natural to include the stuff which is this radio spot story, of course, and abuse and all that stuff. Stuff that puzzles me turns up in the artworks I do.
Yeah, for me it's also very important. The term of catharsis is also very important. Very often people ask me, why don't you do normal films? Why do you do horror films? And it's for me. It's definitely not a commercial decision, because it's very commercially. It's a sort of suicide in Germany to do a horror film, because this genre is absolutely not accepted. For me, it's a personal thing, because the films that impressed me the most were horror films, because they had the possibility to tell truth in a metaphorical, surreal way, and you were, as a horror filmmaker, you are not bound to reality. You can show the reality of dreams and the reality of your soul, you know. And you see that in around there's a lot of things like sexual addiction and sexual fear, and these are all things that were issues for me when I was growing up, and I even took drugs and stuff like this, and it was a part of my inner life, which I can bring to images by this with a horror film. And this is the point that for me makes horror films unique and universal worldwide. In every culture understands the images of archetypes and archetypal fears, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because it makes me brings to mind the idea of that people can watch real crime shows and think very casually of them. It's on TV or it's a movie, but they won't be okay with a horror film, even though there's killing in both and mature themes in both.
Absolutely.
And I wonder what you think about the idea of, as you were saying, these archetypal qualities of fear and the subliminal and all the symbolism that's involved in it. If it's striking people in a place that's less comfortable, then like the same thing as the German Critic Board, where they want to see things black and white, and anything else we want to push to the side because it's cutting to you in a way that's very different than all of these other black and white kinds of stories.
Yes, I think the point is when you watch a crime show on TV, a documentary crime show, you can say, these are bad guys, they did bad things and they are different from me. But if you see these symbolic things in horror films which are attacking your inner self and saying, we are all evil and we all have these demons in us, then you can't say, no, these are the bad guys and I'm the good guy. You are involved into this thing. And that's the interesting thing about horror films and this subversive thing.
Yeah, because it does, as I mentioned earlier, Neil and I both like the more psychological ones like this, and he mentioned Salo and other films like that, Serbian film. And those ones really push at people, and then I think about, well, what are the differences between, I mentioned, I'm not trying to hate on Friday the 13th, it's just a different type of horror film. Yeah. So that does have that very black and white, here's the villain, here's these poor teenagers running around, and it is a very different thing.
It's entertaining.
I'm wondering if that's the same kind of thing, even though horror people, they're kind of set apart from, you know, someone that's watching, as I used as an example, a crime drama show. That even though they feel set apart from those people, that there's still this need for people to feel like they are not the bad guy, that they're not that villain, that's not a part of them, they're not really capable of that.
Yeah, when I was young, I loved films that offended me, that really offended me. And one of the first films I loved was Suspiria by Dario Argento, and in general, a lot of these Italian horror films who had this perverse subtext, and when I seen them, they weren't just entertainment. They had something nasty about them that was touching me deep inside. And That's what I demand from a horror film. Not only entertainment. It's okay to entertain with fears like a guy on a campfire telling stories. This is the tradition of horror film. That's the origin of horror film, and it's absolutely okay for me. But there must be something inside. There must be some message underneath a story that really touches you inside in your soul. And that's what I'm demanding from a horror film, and what I want to do with my films. Mm-hmm. And I think we all of us have this aim, not only to entertain, but also to give some statement and some message.
Yeah. I don't even want to entertain.
This has been terrific. I did want to mention to Andres, I really liked, there was a part of a story when they said, everything is always less than your imagination, and I thought that was a great line, and it also really, I thought, captured that particular story, because it was you keep chasing like the bigger and better drug, thinking it's gonna different things. And I thought it really captured that whole story he's telling. And it was perfect.
Yes, and by chasing you completely miss your real life. You miss the real love, and you don't see the person who is next to you and who's there. You're just chasing your ideal ideas and your ideal lust, and this is not a good idea.
Because Andreas' episode nicely also criticizes the upcoming or already existing iPhone generation.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate all three of you being here, and you guys just mentioned that you're going to be doing a commentary track, so when will people be able to see like a DVD or a Blu-ray release of the film?
So the German DVD release is planned for May this year, but for the US there is going to be a nice festival where there's going to be a world premiere. I cannot tell you now at this moment because it's still secret, but it's this festival very well.
Okay.
The film is not to the US yet.
It's not sold to the US yet. There are some, there are the people waiting, for make a decision. So we will keep you updated on that. You can follow us on Facebook with all the latest news or on our website.
I mean, we have not even screened the film in Germany.
It's very fresh.
It's very fresh, yeah.
There's been only 4 screenings so far in Rotterdam. That was the world premiere. That's it for the moment.
Yeah. Well,
so more to come, but expect to see the movie in the States, and we're looking forward to hear all the comments.
Yeah. Is that where where would you say the majority of the crowdfunding came from?
That was Germany.
70% was German. A lot of the rest was like US, the Anglo-Saxon area, UK, South Africa, there was a few guys, Australia. So, yeah.
But next time it has to be more money from the crowdfunding.
Yeah, definitely.
We just used it for a start.
Yeah, but we merely spent it on the trailer alone. That was kind of frustrating. Okay, keep us updated with your posts. You have our Facebook accounts, and if you upload the interview, send us the link, then we can link it.
Oh, we definitely will.
This is Stephen Razor. As you know, I hate human beings, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.